All right, so have you ever wondered about this whole manifestation thing?
Yeah.
Like, can we really just think things into being? Is it real or is it just hype?
Right.
Well, today we're going to deep dive into it, try to cut through the noise.
Hmm.
We've got a podcast episode we're using as source material, and it
Yeah.
goes deep into both the art and science of manifestation.
I think what's interesting is, it brings up that this isn't just like some trendy new age thing. It's actually rooted in like ancient wisdom.
Okay, so it's got some staying power then.
Exactly. And it's really important to understand that we're not talking about magic here.
Right.
It's not like you just sit on your couch and think about $1 million and poof, it appears in your bank account.
Yeah, if that were the case, I think we'd all be on yachts right now.
Exactly. The source uses this great analogy. They say it's like a GPS.
Oh, heck.
You set the destination, but you still have to get in the car and drive.
Okay, so you're setting the intention, but then you're also taking action.
Mm-hmm.
But how do you like bridge that gap
Yeah.
between thought and reality?
Yeah. That's where this idea of aligned action comes in.
Okay.
So it's not just any action. It has to be action that's in harmony with the thing that you want to manifest. Like, say you're trying to manifest a new job.
Right.
You wouldn't just sit at home and visualize yourself in some corner office. You would update your resume, go to networking events, actually go on interviews.
Right. So you're co-creating with the universe. You're putting in the effort, but you also have this belief that it's going to work out.
Exactly. And this is where things get really fascinating because the source also delves into the science behind this.
Okay, hold on. Science and manifestation. I'm intrigued now.
Right. So it's not all just woo-woo stuff, right? There's actual neurological evidence
Wow.
that supports how powerful our thoughts and beliefs can be. For example, the source talks about the reticular activating system, the RAS.
RAS. Okay, remind me what that is again.
Okay, so think of it as like a filter in your brain that decides what information you actually become aware of. And here's the key. This filter is heavily influenced by what you focus on consistently. So if you're always thinking about, oh, I don't have enough money, I like this, I like that, your RAS is going to seek out evidence to confirm that belief.
Oh, wow. So it's like a self-fulfilling prophecy almost.
Precisely. But on the flip side, you can use this to your advantage.
Okay.
If you shift your focus to abundance and opportunity, the RAS starts highlighting those things instead.
Okay.
And you're going to start noticing those little things that confirm that belief.
So, I mean, it really is powerful what we think.
Right.
Is there more to the science, the scientific side of things?
Yeah, absolutely. So there's this thing called neuroplasticity. It's our brain's ability to like rewire itself.
Right.
And guess what plays a major role in that?
Re-
Visualization.
Really? So just by picturing ourselves doing something,
Yeah.
we can actually change our brains.
Exactly, because when you consistently visualize something, you're essentially creating these new neural pathways, and it makes it easier to actually do the thing you're visualizing. It's like practicing a skill. The more you do it, the better you get.
That's mind-blowing.
Yeah.
So we're not just thinking positive, we're actually changing our brains.
Exactly, exactly. And there's one more piece to this whole science of manifestation thing, which is the placebo effect.
Oh, right. The
Yeah.
placebo effect. Like when people experience real results just because they think they're taking medicine,
Yeah,
even if it's a sugar pill or something.
right. And it really shows just how powerful belief can be in shaping our reality.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
Okay, so we've talked about what manifestation is, and it's definitely more than just wishing and hoping. But how do we put this into practice? How do we manifest effectively?
Yeah. And the source we're looking at does a great job of laying out a practical step-by-step guide to, manifesting like a pro.
Okay, I'm ready. Lay those steps on me. I want to be a master manifester.
All right, let's do it.
So, all right, let's unlock these manifestation secrets. Where do we even begin? What's the first step?
Well, the source we're using, they start with a step called Get Crystal Clear. And
Okay, that sounds pretty straightforward, like
Yeah.
on the surface. But I'm guessing there's more to it than just, having a vague idea of what we want.
right, it's about getting really specific, like ditching those wishy-washy desires and getting laser focused on exactly what you want.
Okay.
They talk about how if you're vague, you're going to get vague results.
Right.
So, instead of just saying, I want a better job, define what better actually means to you. Is it more money, more flexibility?
Right, or like a more creative outlet or something.
Exactly, yeah. And then when do you want it by? What field do you want this job to be in?
Yeah, it's like the difference between saying I want to travel more and saying I want to backpack through Southeast Asia. One is just kind of a daydream, and the other one you're actually starting to, like, form a plan.
Exactly. The more specific you are, the what, the when, even the how, your brain can actually start working on making that happen.
Right.
It's like giving your internal GPS, like we talked about, a specific address to go to.
Right, right. Not just, hey, head in that general direction. Okay, so we've got our crystal clear vision. We're locked in. Now what? How do we take this from a mental picture to something tangible?
Well, that's where step 2 comes in. It's all about feeling it real.
Okay, so now we're not just thinking about it. We're trying to experience it with our senses. Is that what you're saying?
Yes, it's not just about visualizing it. It's about feeling the emotions that you would feel if you already had achieved this goal.
So, like, if I'm picturing myself landing my dream job, I shouldn't just, like, see myself sitting in the office. I need to feel the excitement, the pride, that sense of accomplishment.
Yes, spend like 5 minutes a day just immersing yourself in that reality.
Yeah.
What do you see? What do you hear? What do you smell? How does your body feel? You're creating that visceral experience in your mind.
Wow.
And that starts to solidify that belief
Yeah.
that this isn't just possible, it's already happening.
Okay, yeah, I can feel a shift already just thinking about it.
Yeah.
But what about, like, the doubts that creep in? How do we keep that belief strong and consistent?
That's where step 3 comes in, and this is a big one. Affirmations that stick.
Right.
Right, and we've all heard that, the I am wealthy, I am successful, but those just feel kind of flat, don't they?
Yeah, they're like, just words sometimes.
Right, and the source actually calls us out on that.
Okay.
They're like, those aren't going to work. The secret is to make them action-oriented and tied to your specific goal.
Right, okay.
So instead of just saying, I am rich, it's like, I am confidently attracting high-paying clients to my business.
Oh, so you're not just stating the desire, you're actually affirming the actions that will lead you there.
Exactly. And it reinforces that belief that you are capable and that you're actively working towards this. It's taking you from wishing to doing.
I like it. Okay, so we've got the vision, we're feeling it, and now we're using these powerful affirmations. What's next?
All right, so step 4 might seem a little counterintuitive, but it's called let go of the how.
Wait, let go of the how, but don't we need a plan? Because we need to know how we're going to get there?
Of course, planning is important, but what the source is saying is that when we get too fixated on the how, like trying to control every little detail, we can actually create resistance.
Okay, so it's almost like, you're trying to force a river to flow a certain way,
Yeah.
but it might have a better path.
Exactly, yeah. Sometimes the most unexpected paths can lead to the most amazing outcomes.
Okay.
And, they basically remind us we don't always have to know how it's going to happen.
Hmm.
Our job is to focus on the what and trust that the how will be revealed.
So, I mean, that takes a lot of faith, though, right?
It does.
It's like taking a leap and trusting that there's a net, even though you can't see it.
Exactly. But that's where the magic happens.
Okay.
When we let go of that rigid how, it opens us up to possibilities that we maybe hadn't even considered.
Right, right.
And it can reduce a lot of stress and anxiety in the process.
For sure. Okay, so we've surrendered the control, but I'm guessing this doesn't mean we just sit back and wait for it to happen.
Right. No, this is where the doing part comes in. And step 5 is all about taking inspired action.
Okay, so we've set the intention, we've visualized, we've used affirmations, we've surrendered the control, and now it's time to actually roll up our sleeves and get to work.
Yes, exactly.
Okay.
It's about taking those steps that feel aligned, even if they're small.
So it's not about forcing it, it's about being open and then taking the action when it presents itself.
Yes, and this is where intuition comes in a lot.
Okay.
It's about listening to that inner voice, that gut feeling, and what feels right.
It's like they say, leap and the net will appear.
Exactly, but you also got to reach out and grab it when it does.
Exactly. Okay, but what about when we hit a roadblock?
Mm-hmm.
Like, what if we're taking the action, but it's just not, things aren't moving as fast as we want them to?
That is a great question. And that leads us perfectly into the final step that they outline, which is practice gratitude.
Ah, gratitude.
Yes.
The superpower that we all have, but sometimes forget to use.
Right. It's so simple, yet it's so profound. And they talk about how practicing gratitude really shifts our energy from lack to abundance.
It's like we're telling the universe, hey, we appreciate what we have and we're ready for more good stuff.
Exactly. When we focus on what we're grateful for, it opens us up to receive even more blessings.
Mm.
And, one of the simplest ways to do this is just start a gratitude journal. Even just write down 3 things every day that you're thankful for.
Yeah, I love that. It's such a simple thing, but it really can have such a big impact.
It does. It really can.
Okay, so we've got our 6 steps to manifestation. But before we declare ourselves master manifestors, I'm sure there's some common traps that we can fall into.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Some mistakes along the way.
Right. Thankfully, the source doesn't shy away from talking about those. They
Okay.
lay out some common mistakes that people make that can really sabotage our efforts.
Yeah, let's dive into those because, forewarned is forearmed, as they say.
Yeah, exactly.
So what are some of these pitfalls that we need to watch out for? Okay, so what are some of these manifestation mishaps? Like, what are the things we got to watch out for?
Well, the first one that the source calls out is something we've touched on already, focusing on lack.
Oh, right. Like the what you focus on expands kind of thing.
Exactly. And they actually give a great example, like saying, I don't want to be broke is actually keeping you in a broke mindset because you're constantly reinforcing that idea of lack.
Yeah, it's like you're putting that energy out there, even though it's what you don't want.
Yeah, you're basically sending a signal to the universe, hey, more lack, please.
Oh, right. Okay, so how do we avoid that?
Flip the script.
Okay.
So instead of focusing on what you don't want, focus on what you do want. So instead of saying, I don't want to be broke, try, I am attracting financial abundance into my life.
Okay. Yeah, I can see how that shift in language, even though it's subtle, it can make a big difference.
Right.
What's another common mistake that we might be making?
The next one is, I think, something we can all relate to, and that's impatience.
Oh, impatience.
Yeah.
The bane of every manifestor's existence.
Right.
We live in such an instant gratification world. You want everything right now.
Exactly. But the source points out that manifestation is a marathon, not a sprint.
Okay.
It takes time for the things that we've, put out there to actually come to fruition. And sometimes that waiting period can be the hardest part.
It's true. It's like, waiting for a cake to bake. If you open the oven too early, you're going to ruin it.
Exactly. So it's about trusting the timing of things, having faith that even though we might not see the results immediately, things are still working behind the scenes.
Okay. So surrender, trust. Those are key here.
Absolutely. And sometimes that means surrendering to the possibility that things might not unfold exactly the way that we had envisioned.
Okay.
Which leads to another common mistake, ignoring our intuition.
That little voice inside that sometimes, knows better than we do.
Exactly. Sometimes that gut feeling is trying to tell us something. Like maybe we're holding on too tightly to an outcome that's not actually in our best interest.
Okay.
Or maybe there's a different path, an even better path unfolding that we haven't even considered.
Right. So stay open to those nudges, even if it takes us in a different direction than we thought we were going to go.
Exactly. And sometimes those unexpected turns can lead to the most amazing destinations.
That's true. It's all part of the adventure, right?
It is.
Okay. So what's the final pitfall that we need to watch out for?
They wrap things up with this really important reminder. We can't skip the most important part, which is taking action.
Right. It all comes back to that aligned action.
Yes.
We can't just visualize and affirm our way to success. We have to actually do the work. Right?
Exactly. Manifestation is about co-creation. It's about meeting the universe halfway. We do our part, the universe does its part.
I love the analogy that they use in this source.
Mm-hmm.
You can't manifest a six-pack just by sitting on the couch eating potato chips.
Exactly.
You got to get up and do the crunches.
Yes, you got to do the work.
All right, so we've got our roadmap. We know the pitfalls to avoid, but what's the essence of all of this?
I think it really boils down to aligning our thoughts, our beliefs, and our actions.
Okay.
It's about understanding that we actually have the power to create our own reality.
Okay.
And it's about embracing this whole journey with a sense of wonder and excitement and gratitude.
I love that. That's a great way to sum it all up. So as we kind of wrap up our deep dive here into manifestation, what's one final takeaway that you want to leave our listeners with?
I would say as you're setting those intentions and working towards those goals, remember to check in with yourself. Like, what are those goals actually saying about your deepest values and desires? Manifestation is a powerful tool, but it's also a mirror. It reflects back to us what we truly believe is possible for ourselves.
Wow.
So, Use it wisely and with intention.
That's a powerful thought. Well, thank you so much for sharing your insights with us today. This has been a really illuminating conversation.
My pleasure. It's always fun to dive into these concepts.
And to our listeners, we hope you enjoyed this deep dive into the world of manifestation. Remember, it's not magic, but it's a powerful force when used consciously and intentionally.
So keep dreaming big, keep taking action, and keep believing in your ability to create the life you desire.
Until next time, happy manifesting.